Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. We're here in Long Beach with a life coach and spiritual teacher, Kirtan practitioner, Sharna Fabiano. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you so much, Jake.
I just want you to talk to the worldwide audience out there. Why do you have credibility as a life coach?
That's a really great question. Life coaching is an unregulated industry, as you may know. I did a 5-month certification with my teacher, which I feel was very comprehensive and created a method and a curriculum by which I, can guide my clients.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like, people are coming to you for a variety of different reasons, but why do you, curriculums are great, but what about life experience? What in your life has given you the impetus or the credibility, the street cred is what I'm trying to get at, that you feel in your heart that you have credibility to be an effective life coach?
Well, I think this is a great question because it sort of prompts the question, it prompts the discussion of what is life coaching. And I think a lot of people may have the misconception that the life coach is someone who's like figured out their life and knows everything and then is just going to tell you how to run your life, which is completely not what life coaching is.
Well, so break it down. What is it? Yeah.
So coaching, and I can only speak from my own training, right? Because there's lots of different kind of coaches out there. But the life coaching is a method by which you help the client understand their own thinking, their own feeling patterns, their own sensing patterns, and link those to obstacles that they have in their life. So if you want to change jobs or have a satisfying relationship or complete a creative project, often there'll be fears or worries or unconscious belief systems that get kicked up as you try to pursue that goal. And the life coach helps you understand what is happening in your own system so that you can change those and feel excited about your goal, whatever that goal is. So there's a really specific way of tracking the thoughts, the feelings, and the sensations in the body in order to make that change.
I have a life coach in Tucson, but he's definitely not, formally educated. To me, it was more like we've talked about off air. It's the way he lives his life. It's the sort of fearlessness that is inspired me to put me on my path. And I definitely don't aspire to be like him in all facets. But can you personalize how this impacted you at a younger age personally, like that you're something that you're able to talk from your own experience about connecting with your body and being able to help clients? I mean, there's nothing that I hate more than ivory tower people who are like in there, but they don't have any street experience.
Yeah, like do what I say, not what I do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sure. And certainly I think all life coaches bring whatever their life experience is, to the practice. And for sure, it's true that people get inspired by other people's stories. But I just want to be clear, like fundamentally what I'm doing is a technique and a method. It's not like, because I've done something, I can teach you how to do it.
Right.
So having said that, my first experience with coaching was with my teacher and coach through a yoga training. So it was very embodied. It was woven into our embodied practice. And it was a time in my life when I had finished graduate school. I was changing careers. I was really not sure what I wanted to do with the next segment of my adult working life. And the method that she coached us with, I found to be so freeing, right? It calmed my anxiety. It allowed me to prioritize what I really wanted in life. It allowed me to take ownership and to give myself permission to want what I wanted and then to organize myself to do it. And I just found that to be so transformative that I decided to, do the certification myself. That's my most direct experience with coaching.
What were some of the specific things that can you talk about something that was liberating that she taught you?
Sure.
I guess the thing
Yeah.
the thing, what you just said, be proud of what you want to do, or something. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So one of the things I've struggled with a lot in my life is owning my myself as an artist, right? And I think there's a lot of just societally, there's a lot of stuff there around doing artistic work. And so part of what happened when I was working with Amy was I'm like, I just gave myself permission to be an artist. And like, whether I make money at it or not, this is just who I am. This is like my soul path. And whether I'm dancing or painting or writing, I just have to do this. It's what gives me joy. This is my identity. It's what I dedicate myself to. And I feel like a pride in that, to be able to share in that way with the world. So she helped me to really own that. Whereas before I was like hiding it and apologizing and then not really doing, as much as I could, not really creating as much work because I was like ashamed of it almost, because it wasn't like lucrative in the way that engineering is, for example. So that was one big thing that she helped me get over. Another thing was I had
the concept of like what society bases success on versus what your life path is, purpose is.
Yeah, exactly.
Regardless, throwing away all that other stuff. I love that.
Yeah, and so the authority becomes your own soul voice, right? Rather than like a billboard or a corporate ad or something, right? You want to return the authority to the inner truth, the inner wisdom. And that's the end goal of this method. What
in the Tao, we talk about finding your true nature and then breaking your habitual nature. And I'm curious, like with your clients, how do you deal with people that are, just two-part question. I mean, how do you measure growth? And then also, how do you get people to kind of break away from their habitual nature and go towards their true nature? I mean, if you're meeting with somebody for months and they're still being bogged down with the same kind, how do you deal with that?
Well, it does take some time, right? And everyone's kind of at their own pace, their own journey. But I would describe like true nature. I would say that is intuitive directed, right? So internally directed to that kind of gut level, body level, feeling that what I want is right. It gives me a good feeling. I feel inspired, right? Whatever that is, whether it's art or engineering or something else. The habitual nature, I would say, is like other beliefs that we picked up along our life, that I'm supposed to be doing this. This is the right thing for an adult to do. My parents told me to do this. My teacher said this. And often those things are not fulfilling. They're just like expectations we think we're living up to. And so there's always going to be a level of stress or anxiety or discontent with those. So the measurement for me is like an emotional scale. Do I feel good about this? Do I feel happy? Do I feel fulfilled? Do I feel meaning? If I'm not feeling those things, then I'm probably feeling anxious, unsure, confused, lost, not good about myself. So if it's really a feeling state thing, and it's not objective, right? For one person, engineering is fulfilling. For another person, art is fulfilling. So that's where the internally directed comes in. I'm asking questions of the client to really elicit what is that true voice, that true nature wanting and leading the person to, and can we clear away the excuses and the shoulds and the shame and the hesitation and the fear from that. And all of those hesitations and fears are picked up along the way from, society, family, etc. So we look at those, we honor them, we offer them compassion, and then we ask them to reintegrate and reorient towards the soul goal. This is a really short summary.
I love it. So what can you go a little bit deeper on the soul goal? I mean, especially if somebody, is that the end game of life coaching? Is to help people find their purpose?
Well, I only speak for my own.
That's why I'm interviewing you. I want you. I want.
But yeah, the goal of coaching when I work with a client is to identify what is that soul purpose. What is the thing that's going to light that person up? That is their divine path. That is their joy. what is that? And then to enable that to grow, right? And we enable that to grow through a variety of ways. It can be external organization. Maybe that person needs just like a structure of getting the work done. Maybe that person needs an upgrade in the belief system to understand that, they can do these things, that they're, those false beliefs about themselves are actually not true, to go back and re-edit those, tell a new story. It can be other kinds of support, other healing practitioners. It can be a variety of things, mindfulness practice. So here's where each coach will customize the work, right? So how are you going to support that person in moving towards their next project, the next thing that is on their soul's path, on their divine path?
How has dancing, tango, and how liberating your body in that dance style helped you, deal with the neuroses that everybody has when they come to you in a life coach point of view? How has that helped you?
I think that any sort of anxiety or fear or hesitation, all these negative experiences, they're in the body, right? Our emotions are linked into our nervous system and our tissues, our muscles, and we can feel that contracting or relaxing. So dancing has given me a really clear relationship with those mechanisms in the body, right? I have a really strong sense of how my body reacts when I get anxious, or what happens to me physically when I'm feeling engaged or fulfilled or excited. So I can, because I have that experience as a dancer, I can perhaps more easily guide people to reconnect with their own body as they're learning to read themselves. Like, oh, this is what it feels like when I'm anxious. And when I feel that way, I'm having this kind of thought. And so I can catch myself in that loop and reorient. Say, well, I don't want to come from that. I want to come from that knowledge of I'm doing my divine work. This is what I'm choosing. I'm in the driver's seat, and that's going to give me a different physical sensation immediately. And then I train that so that I'm living more in that activated, energized, calm, centered, whatever it is, nervous system state. So it is a physical practice. It's like going to the gym, but for your emotions.
Absolutely, but do you think it's authentic in a digital format? I mean, to me, this is so much more effective, even just having this impromptu session with you before we went on air, person to person. And I know that's ideal. I mean, that'd be the ideal, but can you still get that across to people if they're on the other side of the pond, so to speak?
When I started coaching, I had that same thought that, like, obviously in person is better. But because my network was spread out around the United States, all of my first clients were remote, and I discovered actually it's almost the same. I mean, it's not the same because we're not with each other, but the effectiveness is not so different. Some of your clients, though, you've never met them personally. Correct. Right. I mean, it's similar to. I always wondered about that anonymity. If there ever is a space there that prevents real. That affect change, but you say no. I mean, it can be done in an effective way. Yeah, in my experience, it does not hinder the process. Yeah, it's particularly with video conference, I would say. Right. On the phone I do feel like I lose something on the phone, but I have done it, and my clients say it's effective. But I much prefer video conference because you do have a lot more there in terms of connection, expression, and you can gauge, how the body's responding more. I'm just going to ask you to free associate here. Mm-hmm. Leadership. Go. Clarity, vision, safety, choice. What are the qualities that make you a good leader? I think those would be some of them. Decisiveness. The leader is the one who is like channeling the idea, and then sending it out, into form, making decisions. When I go to paint, I'm like the leader in me is the one that gets me, is the one that says you're going to paint today from 2 to 4. And so that is sort of like the leader part in saying like, I'm going to choose these colors. I'm going to choose this size canvas. The follower in me is the one who like spends the time there,
right,
playing with the materials and kind of making the work happen. So it's it's a little hard to separate when you're in one person, one body. But there's the follower for me feels always very embodied, the one crafting, the one doing the work, the one trusting the process. And the leader in me is more like from the head. It's more like, now is the time. This this space between 2 and 4. This parameters.
And following through on that.
Following through for me is more following.
That's
I think.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah,
But if you set aside a time 2 to 4 as a leader, and then you don't show up till 3, that's not good leadership.
Well, I think about this differently than most people because of my tango experience. That I think leadership and followership work together, and I think there's a cultural tendency to put all good behavior under the umbrella of leadership, and all bad behavior under the umbrella of followership.
I did, yeah.
And I think that's a little bit off. I think there's good leadership and good followership, and also bad leadership and bad followership. So for me, the following through is the following, right? The leading is saying 2 o'clock, and the following is like, okay, I'm here, I'm showing up, right? The following is the showing up. So those two things are active in us all the time. And in coaching sense, the leader is like, okay, I'm choosing to affirm that I'm good enough, say, for example. And then the following is like, okay, what's my body doing in response to that? And I have to sometimes like really tune in and allow that feeling in. And that's the following, and that can be hard because it's vulnerable and it's emotional, and we're not trained to be in that realm. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, I mean, keep going. Free associate on love.
That's just a small question.
Take your time.
Yeah, I think nowadays, I think I can just speak from the present moment. Love is what I am feeling when I am fulfilled, when I feel I belong, when I know my divine nature. It's both a feeling of peace and a feeling of joy at the same time.
How often does it occur?
Regularly. I mean, I feel very blessed, to feel love a lot these days. I feel that when I'm doing my artwork. I feel it with my partner. I feel it when I'm surrounded by friends. I feel that when I'm singing kirtan. Even to some extent when I'm doing my work, with clients, very much I feel like love is there because I know that this is part of my divine work right now to do this kind of support and facilitation and support people's reaching their own potential. So I call all of that love, alignment, the yes, the feeling I'm doing, I'm doing good work here in my life. I'm in the right place at the right time.
Do you believe that peace and joy have to be? Can you feel one or the other for love, or does it have to be in coordination, both of them?
For me, they're just aspects of the same thing.
If you're like feeling joy, but you're kind of like a little bit wiry or on edge, and you don't feel peace. Is that just being happy? Because you use that love and peace. I mean, peace and joy. That's pretty much it. But do they have to be in conjunction? I guess that's what I'm asking.
For me, they I feel like they are. I don't know that I can feel joyful without also feeling some peace. Joy obviously feels like bigger, kind of more expressive energy, but without like a peacefulness, then it just feels kind of like there's like anxiety to it. It just feels like excitation, not love. So yeah, for me there really are like just facets like of a jewel. So love being like the biggest word we have for that feeling of divine goodness, but I think joy and peace and they're just, yeah, they're like facets of the diamond.
Life, free associate on life. When I talk about life, I mean overcoming adversity. Can you point to a time in your life when you were fighting through something, how you overcame it, how it made you a stronger person constitutionally?
I
like
feel
buying a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Or something,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, there are cats that, you know, anyway, I feel like that's how you can get closer to love and leadership and is by overcoming adversity and becoming stronger because of it.
Yeah, I guess I'll answer it this way. I don't feel like in my life I have some very dramatic story, but I think that my life, and particularly my growing into myself as an artist, has been like a series of choices that have been that have felt emotionally risky to me, kind of incrementally, you know, like leaving my full-time job and then going back to school and then changing careers. Like all those choices were like steps off a cliff in a sense, like into the unknown. There were not paths that anyone I knew had taken.
Without a net.
No net. There were no prescribed routes, you know, for what I was feeling I was being called to do. Often I was like, I don't even know what I want to do now. It's just not this. So, you know, all of those choices felt like internally like terrifying, even though externally, you know, that it might not have been like that I was in the most, dire situation. So my path, I think, has been more of like an internal one, you know, in my life, and trying to align myself more and more with things that felt like joy and felt like true purpose and felt like the internal yes. And those things for me, for whatever reason, have just been like kind of counterculture or kind of, you know, off the beaten track.
Yeah, I'm just curious about like how you dealt with perception when you were taking these walks off the cliff, especially as it relates to people around you that you were closest to, and how you dealt with that.
Well, my family was often very worried and critical of my choices, and, you know, sometimes I had to just not talk to them for a while I figured things out. And I think in the end, it was a kind of trusting my own intuition. I'm blessed to have a strong connection with my own intuition, and all the big choices in my life I have made basically from a body sense, right? Not from like a mind sense. It's like I just felt like this was right or this was wrong, and I felt it like in my whole body, and that feeling wouldn't go away until I made the choice, which was the one that felt better.
Wow.
So like leaving my first job and, you know, going to Buenos Aires to study tango and moving out to California, all those things were like physically, I just felt like I needed to do it. And I couldn't feel like at peace, I would say, until I had done that thing. And suddenly once I'd made the physical choice, then what I'd done before felt wrong, and I couldn't go backwards.
Absolutely. I had a chance to experience Kirtan Chanting with you and Durga. How did you and Durga meet?
We met through a mutual friend who we knew through the yoga community, just by chance.
And then how is it can you talk about how you led up to the point of starting to collaborate in Kirtan?
Sure. It was first just a phone call, from this mutual friend that said, hey, Durga is looking for someone to play drum for this one Kirtan.
And you never played that. And tell me the name of the drum again.
It's a mridanga. I've never played it before.
Right. So you just ran the, I mean, someone just like, they need somebody to play this drum. Yeah.
I just kind of did it, and I thought, okay, this is a one time. I know rhythm. I'm a dancer. I can
Sure.
play a simple rhythm on a drum, and I was kind of excited about that. I've never tried it before, so I did that when we met to rehearse. I feel like she's really channeling divine energy when she sings, and I was just so struck by that. Again, it was a full body experience. Like, whoa, there's something special going on with, first of all, Kirtan, this practice, and this person. I felt that connection with her, and I got that yes. I'm like, okay, I've never done this before, but my body's saying yes, do this, keep doing this. And so, so we met again, and, I played with her a few more times, and then she said, I want you to be part of Ambika, this group that I'm forming, and I met Hisela, and it all kind of seemed to happen like without me putting any effort into it, and it's like I just found myself in a kirtan band, and my head was like, this doesn't make sense, you're not a musician, but my body was like, whoa, this feels really good. You're really happy when you do this, it's like instant joy. You're learning. And so, I kind of worked through insecurity about that, with her and others, and said, I don't know how I sound, I need to, improve my singing, my playing, and, and I'm doing that. But, overwhelmingly, it feels like something I'm meant to be doing. And, she also kind of mirrored that back to me. She said, I feel this, you should be with us. So, we're both really feeling into our intuition there, and it's just kind of unfolded from there. And then we're into the place we are now, where we're playing like 3 or 4 times a month.
Where is for Sharna, what is the area that you want to grow the most in?
Right now I'm working on a book project and a training project that's based on kind of marriage of my tango experience and my coaching training on how leadership and followership skills work together in the workplace, and potentially other places as well, in relationship, in society. So I feel like that is my growth path right now, in articulating how we can create really inspiring, generative relationships at work, by identifying like great leadership and great followership working together, and really have creative human relationships.
Where does does that come from prior experience where you feel like that's something that's missing in the workplace, and can it apply to all workplaces?
I do think it's missing in the workplace, and yes, I do think it applies to all workplaces, because I think these are universal principles that I discovered and learned in tango, but that thousands of students have told me they have already applied outside tango. And I think there is like a big imbalance right now in our idea of work and how we interact at work. It's very leader-centric, which means it's very head-oriented, very intellectual, very directive, and there's just a kind of blind spot in the other side, the body side.
It's very hierarchical too, yeah.
Yeah, and we need a hierarchy for some things, accountability and responsibility, and so that's good. We don't have to throw it out, but we need to, I think, in order to up-level, our productivity and our sustainability, we need to also recognize that for every direction there's a response, right? And how to do that response in a good way. For every spoken vision, there's like the active listening that allows that vision to come into existence. And how do we practice active listening? How do we practice good forms of response and engagement? Those are, some followership skills that make leaders better, right? And when we ignore them, then we're just not we're not in a high potential creative relationship with each other. So that's what I'm hoping to bring to workplaces.
Before I let you go, can you just talk vibrationally about how you try to raise the vibrations in our society? I mean, right now they're very low. I feel they're very low for a variety of reasons. Part of it is the culture is very stifled, and it's been like that with gentrification and a whole bunch of other things. So that is part of it. Part of it is the political paradigm that we're in and sort of the precipice that we're on in this country. But how do you, I guess the better question is, you've already proven to me how you raise the vibrations. How can people raise vibrations in their world?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I have found that it, and this is, I think echoed in, almost every spiritual text that I've ever read, is like start inside, start with yourself. And that's also just the seed of, all my dance and coaching training is how are you showing up like today, right now? So I feel like the best thing I can do to raise vibration, in the world is to focus myself on the qualities that I want to see in the world. Love, peace, joy. If I'm cultivating that myself, on a moment by moment basis, then everyone I come into contact with is going to have more access to that. And the things that I write and the things that I create and, the things that I sing, those are all going to have the energy of joy, peace, and love. And that is enough in a way. I think there's part of me, again, that kind of mental part is like, oh, you have to do more, you have to like sing for 10 million people or write 10 million books, but we can't control that, those big things. I don't know how we're going to solve global warming, but I believe that it's possible. And I believe that if I start with myself, internally, all I can do is follow my own intuition, and that's what I want for everyone. If we were all, like all billions of us, were tuned in to our divine intuition, the world would be a different place. And so if that's what I want, I have to do that myself every day and support that for other people in any way that I can.
How do people find you?
They can find me on my website, sharnafabiano.com, on Facebook, Sharna Fabiano Coaching.
These are relatively, you're open to all peeps.
Absolutely.
All right. And I was just, you really, really healed me last night, you guys. Actually, I was vibrating like without intentionally trying to move. Ma at a certain point was moving me back and forth. It was, I always talk to the cats about having out of body experiences. That was pretty out of body. So, thank you for being present in the world and bringing light to the world, Sharna.
Thank you so much for being here, Jake. Really appreciate the time.
It's the Jake Feinberg Show. See you later.